Why, hello there. Thanks so much for clicking. My name is Stephanie, and I'm an alcoholic in recovery. It has been almost 5 years since I picked up a drink of alcohol. My sobriety date is March 9th, 2021. I apologize for the audio if you hear screaming children. There's a birthday next door, and the truth is, I can't find another time to record, so I hope it's okay. We will pick up in our big book of Alcoholics Anonymous Big Book Study. Right before we do that, I want to read to you a passage from one of my favorite books. This is one of the books that has gotten me through my sober journey, and it was given to me a long time before I even stopped drinking, I believe years before, by a friend, a yoga friend. And I absolutely adore this book. It's called The Book of Awakening, and the writer is Mark Nepo, and he's a wise fellow. You can read up on him if you want to. And basically, this book has a passage of wisdom for every single day of the year. And I believe today is what? The 21st of February, yes. February 21st. Cleaning out the wound. If I had experienced different things, I would have different things to say. So often I have felt troubled and guilty bearing witness to my pain, and yet not to makes things worse. Somehow, in saying just what mother had done in her cruel need to be the center, or just what father couldn't do out of his fear of facing my mother, somehow telling the truth as I know it makes me feel like a bad person, as if I'm making my pain up, as if I'm hurting others by saying bad things about them. But the unshakable bottom of all this is that I'm not making things up. If I have unkind things to say, it's because I've experienced unkind things. And so my only guide in this witnessing is to be accurate and honest. While I am not a victim, I didn't ask for certain shaping experiences to happen to me. I didn't ask to be slapped or ridiculed as a boy, or to be mistreated by lifelong friends later in life. In truth, if I had experienced different things, I would have different things to say. What if most healing about bearing witness to things exactly as they are, including my own part in my pain, is that when the voice of the pain fits the pain, there is no room for distortion or illusion. In this way, truth becomes a clear bandage that heals, keeping dirt out of the wound. To voice things as they are is the nearest medicine. The meditation is to center yourself, and in the safety of your heart that has carried you this far, give voice to a wound you carry. Breathe deeply and try to be accurate, naming all those responsible for the wound, including yourself if that is the case. Soothe the wound with your deepest breathing. Soothe yourself with the cleanness of truth. So truth cleans the wound. What we shed light on sets us free. The darkness can only hold the secrets, but the light shines light on healing. And the Book of Awakening gives us more wisdom as we go. And that leads us into what we left off with last week, which is a fear list. I went to write down my list of fears, and what I came to was a very simple, boiled down list. Yeah, I could get into the minutia of the day in and the day out and the this and that, but that's not very interesting. And that's not what the program of Alcoholics Anonymous teaches us. What the program teaches us is to go over things vaguely in telling our stories. And if I go into the minutia, I am going into the gritty details, and you don't need to know all that. But what you do need to know is that I, Stephanie, I do have an innate fear of not being liked, of not being loved, of not being safe, of not being happy, and not being content. Now, I don't have a fear of not eating or starving or anything like that. And I don't have a fear of financial insecurity. But I do have a fear of not being liked, loved, safe, happy, or content. And I know that those are my fears, and they drive a lot of my choices in life. They make me settle in places that I might not settle because my fear takes over. Do you guys have fears, or do you people have fears that take over and kind of push you to purchase things in your life that maybe you wouldn't buy, or do things in your life that maybe you wouldn't do? Like get married because of certain tax breaks or certain legal things, or buy some MREs, some ready to eat meals, and just pack them away in the closet just in case. When I used to be a nanny, I had parents buying the strangest contraptions to monitor their babies to make sure they didn't die in the middle of the night. Yeah, fear is a business that people will capitalize upon and try to profit off of. If you think the televangelists of the United States, the people who love to say, send in your money, these people with private jets and giant mansions all over the world, and they're like, give God your money, when really it's give the pastor your money. The one who's cheating on his wife, having sex in bathrooms with gay men and lying about it. Hey friends, editing Steph here. I just wanted to clarify, because I went on a tangent there, that the purpose of the fear list is to label, identify, so we can change and attack our fears. It's really important. So that's what I want you to do. You can share it with somebody, or you can keep it to yourself. You can write in the comments, but that's part of this process. So go right ahead and do that fear list and get back to me on that another time. Proceeding on with the rest of the video. Thanks. Before we do that, I do want to read to you the steps, because the steps are everything. And I just want to remind you that you don't have to be an atheist or an agnostic or a Christian or a Muslim or a this or that to take or leave the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. What we have here is a format for living that can help you if you take what works and leave the rest behind. And that's what I like to do. And I would like to read to you the 12 steps. Number 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Number 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Number 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of a higher power as we understood them. Number 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Number 5, admitted to God, ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Notice they didn't say admitted to AI. They said human being. Somehow they knew. Number 6, we are entirely ready to have our higher power remove all these defects of character. Number 7, humbly asked our higher power to remove our shortcomings. Number 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Number 9, made direct amends to such people whenever possible, except when to do so would to be harming them or others. Number 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Number 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with our higher power as we understood them, praying only for knowledge of our higher power's will and the power to carry that out. Number 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, try to carry the message to other alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Those are the 12 steps. And if you break it down, they're very simple ideas of living. When you mess up, admit it and try to make changes. If admitting it means to stir up more drama than need be, then just don't do that. And on a regular basis, we're taking inventory on our own behavior. We're admitting when we're wrong, meaning we're eating our words. We're saying we're sorry. And after we say we're sorry, we have to change behavior. Repeating the same thing over and over like alcoholics and addicts like to do, and then continuing to say sorry, that's not going to work. That is not living the program. If we are to apologize, we are not to repeat over and over and over and over, because you can apologize, but if you don't make amends, if you don't make a change, that's what amends means. It means to change, then your words are empty. And it's important for us to understand these steps, and they don't have to be things that you are wrapped up in the dogma about. Okay, let's get back to the purpose of all this. And what we know is a spiritual awakening can just be like an aha moment. Don't get all wrapped up in thinking this means that you have to go to church now. I go to church, but that's just to admire the architecture or to go to AA meetings. It has nothing to do with a Christian God, and it never will. Where we left off in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous is page 68, the bottom of page 68 in chapter 5, which is called How It Works. And here's where we get into a little bit of the messy stuff. Ooh. Now about sex. Many of us needed an overhauling there, but above all, we tried to be sensible on this question. It's so easy to get way off the track. Here we find human opinions running to extremes, absurd extremes perhaps. One set of voices cry that sex is a lust of our lower nature, a base necessity of procreation. Then we have the voices who cry for sex and more sex, who bewail the institution of marriage, who think that most of the troubles of the race are traceable to sex causes. They think we do not have enough of it, or that it isn't the right kind. They see its significance everywhere. One school would allow man no flavor for his fare, and the other would have us all on a straight pepper diet. We want to stay out of this controversy. We do not want to be the arbiter of anyone's sex conduct. That's a safe, good thing to do. We all have sex problems. We'd hardly be human if we didn't. What can we do about them? We reviewed our own conduct over the years past. Where had we been selfish, dishonest, or inconsiderate? Whom had we hurt? Did we unjustifiably arouse jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness? Where were we at fault? What should we have done instead? We got this all down on paper and looked at it. In this way, we tried to shape a sane and sound ideal for our future sex life. We subjected each relation to this test. Was it selfish or not? We asked our higher power to mold our ideals and help us to live up to them. We remembered always that our sex powers were higher power given, and therefore good, neither to be used lightly or selfishly, nor to be despised and loathed. I will pause on page 69, no less, of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. It says that your sex powers are given to you by your higher power, and they are not to be used lightly or selfishly. They are good, and they are not to be despised or loathed. They say it right there in the big book. Your sex powers are higher power given, and they're not to be used lightly. They're therefore good, since they are given to you by your higher power. And they're not to be used lightly, nor to be despised or loathed. Let's wrap our head around that. Your sex powers. They even say sex powers. That's funny. And it's on page 69. Okay, I can't get over that. I think that's really important. They tell us here to take personal inventory of where we have used sex manipulatively, selfishly, to gain things that we wanted, in a dishonest manner. And that is part of taking inventory. And as we move along, I just want to make a point that the big book, even though it was written 100 years ago, 90 years ago, even though this book was written 90 years ago, even then, they knew that sex was a good thing. Just don't use it lightly. Whatever our ideal turns out to be, we must be willing to grow toward it. We must be willing to make amends where we have done harm, provided that we do not bring about still more harm in doing. In other words, we treat sex as we would any other problem. In meditation, we ask our higher power what we should do about each specific matter. The right answer will come if we want it. Our higher power alone can judge our sex situation. Counsel with persons is often desirable, but we let our higher power be the final judge. We realize that some people are as fanatical about sex as others are loose. We avoid hysterical thinking or advice. Suppose we fall short of the chosen ideal and stumble. Does this mean we are going to get drunk? Some people tell us so, but this is only a half-truth. It depends on us and our motives. If we are very sorry for what we have done and have the honest desire to let God take us to better things, we believe we will be forgiven and will have learned our lesson. If we are not sorry and our conduct continues to harm others, we are quite sure to drink. We are not theorizing, these are facts out of our experience. To sum up about sex, we earnestly pray for the right ideal, for guidance in each questionable situation, for sanity, and for the strength to do the right thing. If sex is very troublesome, we throw ourselves the harder into helping others. We think of their needs and work for them. This takes us out of ourselves. It quiets the imperious urge when to yield it would mean heartache. If we have been thorough about our personal inventory, we have written down a lot. We have listed and analyzed our resentments. We have begun to comprehend their futility and their fatality. We have commenced to see their terrible destructiveness. We have begun to learn tolerance, patience, and goodwill toward all men and women and people, even our enemies, for we look on them as sick people. We have listed the people we have hurt by our conduct and are willing to straighten out the past if we can. In this book, you read again and again that faith did for us what we could not do for ourselves. We hope you are convinced now that a higher power can remove whatever self-will has blocked you from them. If you have already made a decision and an inventory of your grosser handicaps, you have made a good beginning. That being so, you have swallowed and digested some big chunks of truth about yourself. And we will pause there at the page 71 on how it works. And I will get a drink of water and be back with you momentarily. Moving along, chapter 6, into action. Up until this point, we have been reading about how it works, and we have gone through everything up until about the 4th step. And so this next chapter, I believe, will start us at the 5th step and therefore continue. Page 72 in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Chapter 6. Having made our personal inventory, what shall we do about it? We have been trying to get a new attitude, a new relationship with our Creator, and to discover the obstacles in our path. We have admitted certain defects, and we have ascertained in a rough way what the trouble is. We have put our finger on the weak items in our personal inventory. Now these are about to be cast out. This requires action on our part, which when completed will mean that we have admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our defects. This brings us to the 5th step in the program of recovery mentioned in the preceding chapter. This is perhaps difficult, especially discussing our defects with another person. We think we have done well enough in admitting these things to ourselves. There is doubt about that. In actual practice, we usually find a solitary self-appraisal insufficient. Many of us thought it necessary to go much further. We will be more reconciled to discussing ourselves with another person when we see good reasons why we should do so. The best reason first, if we skip this vital step, we may not overcome drinking. Time after time, newcomers have tried to keep to themselves certain facts about their lives. Trying to avoid this humbling experience, they have turned to easier methods. Almost invariably, they got drunk. Having persevered with the rest of the program, they wondered why they fell. We think the reason is that they never completed their house cleaning. They took inventory all right, but hung on to some of the worst items in stock. They only thought they had lost their egoism and fear. They only thought they had humbled themselves, but they had not learned enough of humility, fearlessness, and honesty in the sense we find it necessary until they told someone else all their life story. More than most people, the alcoholic leads a double life. They are much the actor. To the outer world, they present the stage character. This is the one that the fellow likes to see. They want to enjoy a certain reputation, but know in their heart that they don't deserve it. The inconsistency is made worse by the things they do on their sprees. Coming to their senses, they're revolted at certain episodes they vaguely remember. These memories are a nightmare. They tremble to think someone might have observed them. As fast as they can, they push these memories far inside themselves. They hope they will never see the light of day. They are under constant fear and tension. that makes for more drinking. Psychologists are inclined to agree with us. We have spent thousands of dollars for examinations. We know but few instances where we have given these doctors a fair break. We have seldom told them the whole truth, nor we have followed their advice. Unwilling to be honest with these sympathetic men, we were honest with no one else. Small wonder many in the medical profession have a low opinion of alcoholics and their chance for recovery. We must be entirely honest with somebody if we expect to live long or happily in this world. Rightly and naturally, we think well before we choose the person or persons with whom to take this intimate and confidential step. Those of us belonging to a religious denomination which requires confession must, and of course will want to go to the properly appointed authority whose duty it is to receive it. Though we have no religious connection, we may still do well to talk with someone ordained by an established religion. We often find such a person quick to see and understand our problem. Of course, we sometimes encounter people who do not understand alcoholics. Let's pause there at the middle of page 74. I definitely chose very carefully who I did my step 5 with. I did it with my sponsor. You don't have to do it with your sponsor. Your sponsor is just a person that will guide you through the steps and help you understand how to live them, love them, learn them. Okay, you don't have to love them. You just have to live them and learn them. And I truly believe that you can do the steps in any order as long as you do step 1 first, and you always do step 12 forever. And other than that, when you do choose the person that you divulge all of your deepest, darkest secrets to, you're going to choose wisely. That's often why we go to these meetings, because Alcoholics is Anonymous. Alcoholics Anonymous, right? And so if we're telling these things to people who don't know us, there's a lot less risk. My sponsor was just a woman that I met at a meeting that I felt had something that I wanted. She had an air about her, a confidence. She had about 10 years sober at the time, and she's just beautiful. And she reminded me of myself, or the person I wanted to be. She's from the Midwest as well, living in loving LA. And so as we move forward, what we're doing on our 4th and 5th step is we are writing down all those grudges and resentments and our part in it, what the solution is. And on step 5, what we're doing is we're choosing somebody to divulge all this stuff to. It can be a psychiatrist or a psychologist. That's really great because they're tied to that anonymity thing through their license. So that gives you a very sure certainty that they're going to keep your secrets secret. Unless, of course, you divulge to them that you want to harm yourself or someone else, and then they're required to report that to the authorities. With that said, a clergy person is risky. You know, I'm an atheist agnostic. And so I believe that a lot of clergy people are just super sinners in disguise, trying to make up for guilt and shame, doth protesteth too much. That's what my father was. He was preaching Christian love and Christianity, but my father was very hateful, racist, bigoted, and he is or was a practicing pedophile, molesting me until I was about 7 years old. Always a lot of information when you visit my channel, Better Than Drinking. So killing time is better than killing ourselves, right? And we kill time and we save lives here because this is better than drinking. And if you can take this small amount of time out of your day to look at this 90-year-old text with me and try to find the goodness in it and apply it to your life, then I have time for you. I'm so glad that you're here. How is it possible? The miracle that you are and the miracle that I am, and now we're here together. So many things have had to come together for me to be here for you today, and that's who I am here for today. I get excited. I start tripping over my words because I want to be your friend. It's hard out here for us alcoholics. It really is, because everywhere we look, even next door at the birthday party, I saw them pulling out the champagne mimosas very early on because, if any other parent knows, it's so much easier to just chillax in any given situation if you have that central nervous system depressant in your hand, that alcohol that we tend to love. Isn't it? It just seems easier, right? But in the long run, we know that that's not easier for us. Ethanol is not meant for the human body. It's a wonderful disinfectant and it's wonderful to run engines, and it is horrible on human flesh. Continuing with the text. If we cannot or would rather not do this, we search our acquaintance for a close-mouthed, understanding friend. Perhaps our doctor or psychologist will be the person. It may be one of our own family, but we cannot disclose anything to our wives or our parents which will hurt them and make them unhappy. We have no right to save our own skin at another person's expense. Such parts of our story we tell to someone who will understand yet be unaffected. The rule is we must be hard on ourselves, but always considerate of others. Notwithstanding the great necessity for discussing ourselves with someone, and maybe one is so situated that there is no suitable person available. If that is so, this step may be postponed. Only, however, if we hold ourselves in complete readiness to go through with it at the first opportunity. We say this because we are very anxious that we talk to the right person. It is important that they be able to keep a confidence, that they fully understand and approve what we are driving at. They will not try to change our plan. But we must not use this as a mere excuse to postpone. Let's pause there. You will find a lot of people in the program won't work the program. They'll just go to meetings and think that everything is supposed to just fall into place from there. But no, darlings, we have to work the program. We have to get the hard things done. So I had to do the hard thing, which was to reach out to a woman at the meeting, which is my sponsor, Erin. And I had to say to her, will you please be my sponsor? Because I knew she was open to sponsorship because she raised her hand at the meeting when they said, raise your hand if you are open to sponsoring. And so I took that leap of faith. And of course, she said yes. And we nurtured a friendship that began in sobriety and honesty, because honestly, she was my first friend that I made in my sober life. And when I say sober, I think of alcohol specifically because alcohol is my vice. There are things that I use in my day and day in life that are not addictions for me, that might be addictions for other people. But I don't bring them up because the program of Alcoholics Anonymous tells us that we don't have opinions on outside matters like that. We focus on alcohol because alcohol is our thing. And unlike other drugs, alcohol has an insidious nature within our society that makes it sexy, cool, interesting, and makes it socially norm. Oh goodness, it's so pervasive. And that's why we purely talk about alcohol sobriety here. But the 12 steps can work for any addiction. We talk about honesty. We don't have to bring up old stuff. We can just start today. And we can say, you know what? When you asked me how I was doing, I said, fine. I lied. I should have said I wasn't doing so fine because I feel kind of crappy today. Now, that doesn't mean you have to pour on your friend why you feel so crappy unless they ask. But let's start with that. Right? I hear friends and people say all the time they don't like chit chat. Yeah, me neither. Actually, no, that's not true. I do like chit chat because I do honest chit chat. I don't talk about fake stuff. I talk about real stuff I want to talk about. You can chit chat about mundane things and still be interesting and interested and fully present and engaged. And that's something I love about AA is that you go to a meeting online or in person and you will find a friend that you can divulge your deepest, darkest secrets to. It's easy to do. I know it sounds crazy, but it's easier to do with an alcoholic in an anonymous meeting. So if you need a friend, if you need somebody to reach out to, please email me. I'll put my email in the description of this episode. It is steadydub@gmail.com. That's steydydub@gmail.com. It might take me a couple of days to get back to you because email is like snail mail for me these days. But just know that I will reach out to you. And if you've ghosted me before and you need a friend again, just don't feel bad about that. Reach out again. I love it when people are like, oopsie daisies, I made a mistake. My favorite thing to do in recovery is to admit fault, admit mistakes. I've gone back and tried to repair things and make amends where I can. It actually makes me feel great inside. I actually feel like I build confidence in those moments. And so, with that said, I want to encourage you to not postpone because it's easy to postpone these steps and take your time. But no, I want you to jump fully in and try to get through them and try to do them. It took me, it took a few weeks on all this. It took 6 to 8 weeks, 3 months to do it all, to each step to really immerse myself, but I was actively working them. And I'll go through them again with another sponsor in the future. But as for now, I think that's enough for today. So until next time, I would like to hear what your fear list is. You heard what mine is. I have fear of being not liked, fear of being unloved, fear of a lack of safety, a fear of not being happy, and a fear of not being content. What are your fears? When I talk about my fears and I really think about them and I decide not to let them rule my life, I find I have more power than I ever understood. And I hope that for you too today. So let me know where you're at today when you're listening to this, how you're feeling. I'm sorry if the audio was funky. I'm going to get outside before golden hour is over. And no drinking. Until next time, keep smiling and keep reaching out if you need a friend. Namaste.
Doesn't it feel good when you're just about to do something that you know is wrong and you decide to do something else? Something that won't hurt you or anybody else? Doesn't that feel great?